What's up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Barbecue. What we're going to be making today is just going to be a pesto sauce, something real simple. The reason I'm doing this is I have a few recipes coming up, and I'd rather just refer back to this video instead of doing this in each video. Anyway, this is something that's simple to make. You can adjust it however you like it. I am going to be putting a pretty common recipe in the description, although I'm just going to kind of be winging this. One thing, if you are thinking about making some basil can get a little costly. One thing I do if I'm making a whole lot of it is I will go with 60-40 basil to spinach blend. I'm only making a smaller amount this time, so no reason for me to worry about my money on this one. Anyway, let's take a look at the ingredients. Pretty simple recipe. I am going to deviate on it just a little bit, and one way that I deviate is I like my garlic roasted. So what I have here is a garlic that I have the top chopped off on it, poured a little olive oil in there. We're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to throw that in the oven until it becomes pretty soft. We have some basil, pine nuts. Pine nuts, again, can be pretty expensive, so you can actually substitute out other nuts in it. I've seen people use almond slivers and walnuts in that. If you're making a big batch, maybe go 70% pine nuts, maybe 20% or 30% almonds. That'd be a nice one. We have some grated Parmesan cheese and some olive oil. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get this garlic roasted up. That should take about 45 minutes. Get my processor or food processor out, and then we'll bang this out. My garlic all roasted up, so now it's time to throw this together. Now if you look at this garlic, you could tell that there are some sections that are kind of browned, and what that's going to do is when we blend this up, there's going to be kind of little chunks of kind of that in there. If you don't like that, like I said, don't roast it or don't roast it quite as long. Again, I'm going to be just throwing this recipe together, but I will have a recipe to, you know, kind of what your typical pesto sauce is in the description. Like I said, this does not need to be that specific. I will be using some of this as you know, just in a traditional pasta recipe, and then I'm also going to be using this as a meat marinade as well. Or not marinade, but I will be cooking the meat with it. Now what I've done is I've thrown my basil in the food processor. I did take off some of the real thick stem on it, but I did leave a little stem on there as well. So I got that in there, and now I'm going to throw in my roasted garlic, and I'm just going to pulse it just real quick. Alright, that's about enough for now. I'm going to go ahead and throw in my pine nuts. Now, salt and pepper, I did not mention that earlier, but that's just going to be to taste. And let's go ahead and get this back on. We're not going to add our Parmesan cheese until the very end, and what I like doing is actually mixing that in at the end, outside of the food processor. So now I'm going to turn my food processor on, and I'm going to pour some olive oil through the top and kind of, excuse me, I wasn't finished talking, and I'm going to kind of wait for it to get to the consistency I'm looking for. And really what we're looking for is just whatever, you know, whatever consistency that you're looking for. There is no, you know, set consistency to this. This is going to be to your own personal preference. Alright, that should be about where I want it. So let's go ahead and pour this stuff out. Now, right now if you're looking at it, let me go ahead and set this down. When you're looking at it right now, it looks pretty kind of almost a yellowish color, and as it kind of sets in, it's going to start getting a little bit more green. And the reason is, when we have it in this food processor, a lot of oxygen is getting kind of pumped into it. So once that kind of settles in, it's going to green up. Not that the color matters, but that's kind of why it's not looking more green right now. Alright, so got this out. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead, we're going to add our Parmesan cheese. And this is going to be another one of those things that's kind of to taste. So, just going to add it in. And I'm going to want this to be pretty cheesy, so I'm going to go a little heavy. Alright, let's go ahead and taste this and kind of see if we're close. Alright, I think we're hitting. So this pesto sauce is all knocked out. I do plan on using this in a couple different recipes. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do a taste test, but this really isn't something to taste test on its own because it always needs to go with something else. Nobody's just going to sit there with a spoon and knock this one out. But, you know, we can at least see if it has the taste we're looking for. Perfect taste, healthy. If you guys are kind of looking at coming up with a sauce that's healthy, you can't beat olive oil. Garlic has all the good stuff in it. Anyway, be on the lookout for some of those pesto sauce recipes that should be coming up. Thanks for stopping by No Hippie Barbecue. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.